Good. Good afternoon, everybody. It is a pleasure to welcome you to the panel entitled Digital Transformation Driven by the European Digital Innovation Hubs Network, in short, EDI. My name is Bogdan Pârvu. I represent Licean Blaga University of Sibiu, who is also an EDI active in Romania. I will be the moderator for today. Firstly, I would like to welcome the panelists of this session. We have Anne-Marie Sassen from the European Commission. We have Mr. Ludwig de Locht. He's a EDI coordinator in Brussels, Belgium. Welcome. We have Nicola Bolic, which is head of the Department for Science and Innovation at the Blue EDI initiative in Croatia. We also have Salvis Roga, who is a board member of Green Tech Cluster and the Latvian Digital Accelerator in Latvia. We also have Mr. Stelian Brad, who is the coordinator of the Digital Innovation Hub for Society, and he's also the president of Cluj IT in Romania. We also expect Mr. Eftimios Vagiakos from Greece, who is also coordinating the Digital Innovation Hub. Secondly, I would like to give a brief overview of the structure of this panel. In the first part, Ms. Sassen will give an overview about what are EDIs and which are the latest news on this topic. In the second part, we'll have a discussion with the Digital Innovation Hub coordinators on topics like specialization and collaboration, both transnationally and regionally. And at the end, we'll hear something about the differences between the digital transformation approach from Europe compared with other initiatives in the world. So just before we start, please make sure that you have turned off your microphone and camera if you're not a speaker. And if there are any questions, please put them in the chat. If there is time at the end of the meeting, we will take the most relevant ones. So having said this, I would ask Ms. Anne-Marie Sassen to give us some information about what are EDIs and which are the latest news from the European Commission side.
Thank you very much, Bogdan. Thank you also for for organizing this session on European Digital Innovation Hub, Innovation Days. And well, I'm happy to see already so many candidates, hubs here to discuss with each other what their specialization will be and how they can collaborate in the future. So that looks very good. I want to introduce quickly what we want to achieve with this network of European digital innovation hubs. So I hope you hear me well and that you don't have an echo. I have a small echo, but it's. I want to start with a new initiative which the Commission has recently posted, and it is called the 2030 Digital Compass. This communication, it uses the metaphor of a compass to show where we should be in 2030 regarding the digitalization of the European economy. There are 4 axes in this compass. One is on digital skills, the second one on digital infrastructures, third one, digitalization level of businesses, and the fourth one, the level of e-government services. And for all these 4 areas, there are targets. And these targets, they will be monitored every year, and it will be looked whether we really are meeting these targets, and if not, more actions will be taken to meet these targets. So if I go to the area of the businesses, because that is the area that will be relevant for the European Digital Innovation Hubs, then what we see is that regarding the uptake of cloud by all businesses in Europe, 75% of all companies should be doing that in 2030. At the moment, we are at 26%. Also for big data, we want 75% of the companies using big data. For AI, we again want 75%, and at the moment we are at 25% of companies that are using AI. And we also want that only 10% of the companies do not have yet the basic level of digital intensity that every company should need. So we want, if I formulate that positively, that 90% of all companies would pass this threshold. So you see, we have these ambitious targets, and one way to achieve these targets is through the network of European digital innovation hubs that we will be setting up and we will be investing in together with the member states. A second communication, which is very relevant, which also came out only 2 weeks ago, it's the industrial strategy of the European Union. So in this industrial strategy, we have 14 industrial ecosystems identified. And on this slide, you can see the different ecosystems: tourism, creative and cultural industries, aerospace and defense, textiles. Well, I will not name them all, but these are the most important economic areas of Europe. And for each of these ecosystems, uh, there will be a process through which what is called transformational pathway will be developed. For instance, for the tourism sector, who have been really suffering a lot from the COVID crisis, it will be looked how through investments the tourism sector can become more digital and also more green, and which actions should be taken. And also here, the network of the European Digital Innovation Hubs will play a role, because it will be reaching out to all companies, especially SMEs in Europe. And every digital innovation hub will also have a specialization. And sometimes these specializations are related also to these ecosystems. So that way we will ensure a link between the different European digital innovation hubs and the SMEs that are taking part in these ecosystems. And then it will be the hubs who will help them with their digital transformation. So we have, the digital innovation hubs, they should help European companies to make use of innovative digital technologies. And we are going to build up a network of around 200 European digital innovation hubs geographically spread all over Europe. The network will be built up with investments from member states and the European Commission at the same time. And we also have a special selection process where it are first member states who will pre-select candidate entities. And in the panel discussion that you will see later, you will see some of these pre-selected candidate entities. And then the European Commission will open a restricted call to which only these pre-selected entities can participate. And out of those, a network of 200 European digital innovation hubs will be selected. So at this moment, we are at a time where the member states have pre-selected their entities. Only one country is still is about to do that, so that will be very soon that all countries have done that. And we have 334 candidate European digital innovation hubs. And on this slide, you see also the different specializations of these 334 hubs. And you can see that they 211 are related, have a focus on artificial intelligence, 95 on high performance computing, 137 on cybersecurity. But you can also see other digital technologies and also different sectors. Yeah, so I was mentioning the tourism sector as one of the ecosystems. Well, according to this slide, there would be 26 candidate European digital innovation hubs that have a focus on tourism. So those would be then the ones who can also help the tourism ecosystem with their transitional pathway. Yeah. If you would like to have a more deeper look at all these candidate entities, then you could look here at this slide. This is the catalog of digital innovation hubs developed by the JRC, and all the 334 candidate entities are on this map, and you can search them according to country or to technologies that they are focusing on. And we want to ask also each candidate entity to update their profile so that it is correct, so that then when people search for it, for instance, because they want to maybe collaborate with some of the other hubs, so that you will get good matches. It will also be used by the European Commission to select our experts that we will need to evaluate all the 334 proposals that we will receive. So you wanted to know an update in timing, and unfortunately I have to still give you a draft timing. I still don't know the real, the actual timing that we will have. But what I can tell you at this moment is that we expect the restricted call to open at the end of June, and that the deadline for submission will be the 29th of September. We will then do in October and November the evaluation of all of these proposals, and then hopefully in December we can send the outcome to everyone, and then hopefully we can then quickly sign the contract so that in the beginning of 2022 the network could become operational. And what I also want to draw your attention to is that we have developed an updated frequently asked question. So that would be something new because it was already a bit outdated. And on the 2nd of June, there will be an information day for the whole Digital Europe program. And in the afternoon, there will be also a session on European digital innovation hubs, where again you would get similar information, I would say, as I give today. But maybe then we know the definite dates, and I could tell you that as well. So the objective of the call of the Commission is to establish the initial network of European digital innovation hub. And we want to, in order to do that, we will select from all the candidate entities 200 entities which are geographically spread over Europe, and which also have a diversity in terms of specializations, covering different technologies and covering different sectors. All these entities, they will get a grant, and with this grant they can improve their own capacity. So they can invest in new hardware and software. They can also invest in more people, and then they should use this hardware and software and people to deliver services to SMEs or public sector organizations in order to help them with their digital transformation. And every one of these 200 European digital innovation hubs should have a specialization, and this specialization should be chosen in such a way that it builds on the strengths that is available in the region and that's available in the consortium, and that it responds to the needs of the stakeholders, so the needs of the SMEs or public sector organizations in case it's focused on public sector. And another objective of this call is also not only to fund these individual 200 European digital innovation hubs, but also to network these hubs together so that they can learn from each other. Also, when a hub is specialized in something, it also means that maybe there could be some requests from companies which the specialized hub, the local hub, cannot answer. And that then in that case, there will be another one of the 199 other European digital innovation hubs who could help this local SME, so that every company will really get the best service possible. So this is the scope, how we propose it. We call it the EU local approach because we really want to combine the advantages of local knowledge with European knowledge. And the local knowledge will be that SMEs will get a service in their own language, adapted to the economical context of the region, and also that the European Digital Innovation Hub is at working distance, that it's nearby, and that it's really something accessible. But then, of course, we want, I already said that, we want that different digital innovation hubs can learn from each other. For instance, if there are hubs who are working on artificial intelligence for the manufacturing sector, different hubs focusing on that, they can really exchange best practices together. So how do we approach it? How do we engage SMEs? They can learn from each other. And that way, they can really improve their capacity much faster than if they would need to have to discover everything alone and learn everything by themselves. And what we also see as an important advantage of this EU local approach is also that once companies in the local setting, they have developed new innovations, that perhaps those innovations of those SMEs could be used by other SMEs in other parts of Europe, and that through this network we will be able to build up new value chains and export opportunities for these innovative SMEs coming from different regions of Europe will be really improved. Another very important advantage, but I think I will say that more, I will say that in the next slide. So I will explain you here a little bit more what different types of networking we would foresee between the different hubs in the overall network of 200. I already explained a bit the exchange of best practices. So hubs, there will always be hubs that have common interest, and these common interests can be related to technologies, but they can also be related to demographics. For instance, if a hub is working in a very remote and sparsely populated region, maybe they want to work with other hubs who are also working in sparsely populated regions, and they would have common interest and common challenges to address, and they can then exchange best practices on that. And so this we would see as a kind of sub-network happening within the overall network of 200. And then there is the case where one local hub doesn't have the right competences to support an SME from its environment, because they need something else than what the hub is specialized in. In that case, I said another hub in the network could help this SME, and for that we need a one-off type of networking, and this will be based on specific needs of customers, and through a central mechanism that we make available through the so-called Digital Transformation Accelerator. That's a support action supporting the overall network of the 200 hubs. There will be a matchmaking facility in order to find a right European Digital Innovation Hub with the right competences, the right facilities to help this SME. And then what we also hope will happen, but this will be more over time, it will be a structural networking between different hubs. For instance, if you first engage with each other on exchanging best practices and you identify common challenges, maybe you also want to develop a common service which is then delivered by each of the hubs in this sub-network to its own customers. And so you would then have one common service which is provided by more than one European Digital Innovation Hub. Or if you would need some kind of specific infrastructure, you could also invest in that together and then make it available to the stakeholders of all the hubs that are investing in this infrastructure. And so that would be a structural type of networking that we hope will happen, but we don't we don't assume that this will be from the beginning. So we don't think that in your proposal you would already have this structural networking together, unless you've worked together in an Horizon 2020 project and you have already developed this service. But otherwise, for us in the proposal, it's fine that you limit yourself to exchange of best practices, that you agree you would participate to this one-off collaboration, and that in the future you would be looking for more structural types of networking. So I've explained now the networking, and then another very important capacity or opportunity, I would say, for the network of the European Digital Innovation Hubs is that they also need to disseminate the digital capacities which are being built up in the Digital Europe program. So the Digital Europe program invests in high performance computing, in artificial intelligence, in cybersecurity and trust, and it builds up digital infrastructures. And the task of the European Digital Innovation Hubs will be to ensure that everywhere in Europe, companies will be able to use these digital capacities whenever it is for their advantage, whenever they could use it and they could have a benefit of it. The hub should really promote these capacities and help then these companies to make use of these capacities. So this is also something very interesting, I think, for every local hub. You don't only have your own resources, but you immediately also get access to all the resources in the Digital Europe program. And in order to enable this, the Digital Transformation Accelerator will organize train the trainer activities where the specialists from high performance computing, for instance, will train the hubs about what they need to know in order that the hubs then can identify the SMEs who could use these capacities and whatever they need to know in order to engage their stakeholders. So that they can train the SMEs to use the capacities, and that's why we call it train the trainer. The hub would then act here as a multiplier. Then the outcome of the whole network of this whole call, it would be that we have a balanced network of European Digital Innovation Hubs. And then every European Digital Innovation Hub, they need to have certain KPIs. And we also would need to collect all the output to evaluate the overall output of the network and also the impact that it has. So we want to know how many businesses and public sector entities have used the European Digital Innovation Hubs, and then how many of them have used, for instance, the capacities of high performance computing or artificial intelligence. We also want to know the amount of additional investments that is successfully triggered, because the main service is test before invest. They will let companies try out certain technology with the idea that if then it's a good technology for the company and the return of an investment would be positive, that then the company can find further investments. And then a third KPI would be the number of collaborations between the different EDIHs. For the impact, we want to collect the increase in digital maturity of organizations that have used the services of the network, and also the innovations that have been coming out of the work of the hubs according to the market maturity and market creation potential of the innovation radar methodology. So this was the end of my presentation, and I just want to make available also all the information that we have available on the internet, and put your attention to different webinars we are organizing on different elements. For instance, the day before yesterday, we had one on the digital maturity. And if you would like to be invited to these webinars, then I invite you to subscribe to our newsletter, which is also on this link. So thank you very much for your attention, and this is then the end of my presentation.
Thank you, Anne-Marie Sasson, for your presentation. There are two questions in the chat. I consider that we should take them towards the end of our panel, if you agree with this. and then see which are the most critical questions. Is that okay for you, this approach?
Yes, that's okay for me. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll get back to the questions in the chat towards the end of our discussion. Okay, at this moment, I would like to introduce every Digital Innovation Hub coordinator to present themselves briefly and give information about their specialization, because we heard every hub is important to have a specialization which is relevant regionally, but also appealing on a European level. So, who would like to start? So I'll give the word then to Mr. Ludwig de Locht in this case, so he can briefly present his EDI initiative.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Ludwig. I work as a digital transformation ambassador at CIRIS, and CIRIS is a collective center for and by the Belgian industry, the technological industry, and we help companies in there with their innovation. And that's very broad, but the team that I work in, we're considering digital innovation. We're looking at processes they have, at the offer, the product or the service, but also at their business model, how digital technology can help to innovate there. And as such, we are already in Brussels a digital innovation hub. And when the call came, we wanted to proceed towards a European Digital Innovation Hub. And we are also a candidate, DigiHub in Brussels, for a European Digital Innovation Hub in Brussels. But we expanded it a little bit to cover all the functions that we need to provide. So we went to our sister organization, the Sector Federation Agoria, because they have a very good networking and ecosystem operation already in place. We approached also Digital Campus Bicentral because they have access to funding and support to find investments, also some training facilities. And also we have two universities in Brussels, one Dutch-speaking and one French-speaking. And they're also involved also for the training and for support with companies that have low TRL solutions that they want to engage. And we also refined the focus a little bit. So instead of using only digital technology broad, we mainly focus on AI. And we help companies there to make not only an economic, but also a sustainable transition based on societal or environmental impact. And for the collaboration, it's maybe also good. So where do we look for collaborations? There are a few types of collaboration. There are some more structural ones that we look for setting up with the hubs, with EDIs that have the same topic, AI for sustainability. And that's to see how we can match the methods and the methodologies or the local needs of the SMEs in the different regions. And we find that we've done that before as well. And we find those local needs, they're more or less the same or can be grouped. And we can then jointly define a service to solve these solutions, or even go one step further and set up an industrial R&D project, for example, to find solutions for those common problems. We're also looking for hubs which have a focus on other technologies, like, for example, cybersecurity or high-performance computing, since those technologies also have an impact on sustainability. And we want to help, bring our companies, also our SMEs, in contact with those hubs, and also provide the services through our hub based on those technologies. And of course, there are some ad hoc or one-off collaborations. If we can supply, for example, to an Industry 4.0 hub, an advice on AI and the proof of decarbonization or sustainability, for example, then we are looking forward to see those collaborations as well.
Thank you. I'll give the floor to Nicola to give a short introduction to his hub.
Thanks, Bogdan. Hi, everyone, and from sunny Split, Croatia. I'm sitting at University of Split. I'm head of Department for Science and Innovation, and I'm also coordinator for Blue DIH. It's an initiative of 3 regional universities and 1 polytechnics. We are trying to cover Adriatic region. We are focusing on blue and green sectors. So in recent years, University of Split invested a lot in strategically focusing our projects and all efforts in blue sectors and covering the blue economy. We are also a member of Alliance, European Universities Initiative Alliance, called CU. So our major focus is seas and everything connected, all the economy from tourism to industry. We have a lot of experience in supporting companies. We basically started 10 years ago. We are also partner in Enterprise Europe Network from beginning. So we know the needs of companies in details, and we basically support them in all during the whole cycle of basically we are providing them whatever they need, as we are also a recognized center for a national innovation agency. So we are providing proof of concept grants to our companies. So we have kind of this component of test before invest. And we also had a lot of experience through different projects, and EDIH is an opportunity to consolidate all these activities and all of these results and to reach the sustainability, because we had a lot of projects relating to HPCs. We are currently a member of EuroCC project. We had some projects in AI, etc. And this is just University of Split. As I said, we have 2 more universities. We have SMEs. We have 1 existing DIH in agriculture and food. And we have public sector. We have 2 cities and 1 county. So we are also trying to incorporate all our knowledge and experience and to try to integrate better services that are currently existing at that level. So basically this is it in short. We are one of the 5 candidates EDIH in Croatia, and we also recently got a grant from sub-grant from Bowie project as one of 9 selected candidates. So yeah, a lot on our plate. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And I'll give the floor now to Salvis Roga.
Yes, thank you, Bogdan. Hi for everybody. So my name is Salvis, and I'm representing Latvian Digital Accelerator. So we are located in Latvia, and we are one of 2 pre-selected EDIHs here in our country, in Latvia. And how we dealt with the EDIH topic between 2 of us in Latvia here, so that we as an Latvian Digital Accelerator, we are concentrating more on new product development. And that is the name Accelerator in our organization's name. So not to implement existing tools, but to create new tools, new IT platforms. And this was based on 2 main challenges what we figured out in our country. So from statistics, we can see that Latvia takes one of the last places in the measurement investment in ICT research and development. That means R&D investments in private sector is very poor here. And another point is that we need to build trust bridge, I would say, or we need to raise awareness of companies to go for such investments as a digitalization is, and therefore in our organization, in the EDIH, there are members not only all leading universities in Latvia or research centers, but also what I think is very important, business support centers business support organizations who have close collaboration with industry, who has already the trust between each other, and this is crucially important to get private sector or to get industry invest in new technologies. And what we hope is that first steps or pilot cases we can help to implement, and then when they see economic benefit of these investments, of this digitalization process, they will be ready for next stage investment. And this is what we see as a crucial needed point to help attract investments, attract money, not only grant money, but also private investment. And this is how we hope it will work. Talking about the specialization, what was mentioned, AI, so that means artificial intelligence and high performance computing are two of our strengths, but we see rather that we need to concentrate on sectors. We need to run sector specific issues because if we have in Europe, I don't know, 100 eddies who are dealing with AI, I think it's a lot, and we need to find some good point how to address the target client. And the target client in our case is private sector. That means manufacturing companies and mobility companies. Mobility is partly public and partly private, but yeah, this is the way we choose, then we hope we will succeed. So that in short for now.
Thank you. And now I will give the floor to Mr. Stelian Brad.
Thank you very much, Bogdan. Thank you to the other colleagues, and hello to everybody. About Digital Innovation Hub for Society, we have to go a little bit back in 2015. That was, let's say, the germination of this idea. To that moment, just let's say focus on Cluj IT cluster, because the cluster is this Cluj IT cluster has a special characteristic. We have about 11 universities members and a lot of IT companies, but later on in 2017 we have applied for research project financed by the Ministry of Research in our country, and the goal, or one of the goals of that project, was to set up Digital Innovation Hub. That was the moment, together with some other initiatives that happened starting with 2018 in the region, the northwest region of Romania, the journey to consolidate this idea, and now we are in the position of comprising much more members that Cluj IT has, including all chambers of commerce and industry in the region, public administration, other private companies that are not necessarily member of Cluj IT cluster. I'm talking about here IT companies, but as well as associations of professionals in different industrial sectors, or intermediaries, as well as multipliers to enrich the ecosystem. Also, we had the opportunities to interact through Cluj IT to several other European DIGs in the last 2 years in different projects, and with a business model we have started in Cluj IT some years ago. Also through this Digital Innovation Hub for Society, we have tried to deliver projects to industry as well as to public administration in partnership of companies, universities, depending on the specificity of the projects. Why is this Digital Innovation Hub dedicated for society? Because we, at the inception phase, believe that we have to see a society with all aspects or to all facets, and we strive for having this society smart, more secure and sustainable, and this is actually the focus. I mean, in terms of outcomes, and because of this, we have started to build up different working groups and task forces around several areas of specializations, especially artificial intelligence combined with robotics for the manufacturing industry, and cybersecurity dedicated for small, medium-sized enterprises, to which also we succeeded to access several projects, including Horizon 2020 projects in this area. So this is, a few words, our history.
Thank you very much. Now I would like to go a little bit deeper in the specialization topic, because, you know, on one side, there are some generic requirements from the EU Commission, that is 4 types of services should be provided: test before invest, skills and training, innovation ecosystem and networking, and support to fund investments. Additionally, there are the technology pillars with artificial intelligence, high performance computing, cybersecurity, and digital skills. And on the other side, we have the regional requirements, and every hub should be appealing for both these topics. And I heard that many of you, although they are mature, there has been a transformation process. And my question is, how did you reach this specialization? How was the process like? Because I think there are many interests to see, maybe you can give us some ideas on how to better focus on this, because we don't, it's not okay to have 200 or hundreds or of edX with the same specialization. And my main question is, how did you reach this? What was the process like? What do you think is important from your side for the success that you had? And if you can provide, beside this, an example on how you have supported an SME, given your specialization, SME or public authority, that would be even better. So,
yeah, it's very important to focus on the job to be done or the problem that the SMEs have. So we have experience with the guidance of SMEs in their digital transformation for a long time in the Brussels region. Also, for the last 14 years, we make a log of all the startups and scale-ups in Belgium. We log them by sector, by the technology that they use, the money that they raise, how they expand internationally or set up international collaborations. This gives us a lot of insight. And if then focus on the Brussels region, it's a small region. You can take your bike and in a few hours you cross it. You don't have to be an experienced cyclist to be able to do that. So there is only place for one EDI in that region. But if you look at the top 5 sectors of all the companies, they only represent 39% of all the companies. So there is no really one sector that you can say we need to focus on specifically that sector, because we would skip a lot of companies. So what we see from our experience, that there is a very strong focus on the use of artificial intelligence to have a new or better offer in a digital service or a digital enabled service. But what we see already is that in Brussels, there is a very strong ecosystem already there for guiding companies in a digital transformation. You have the hubs, the clusters, you have a lot of accelerators with some help and so on. You have also companies that are helping other companies in their digital transformation. So we wanted to have an add-on to that existing ecosystem, not to copy what is existing. And then we had also collaboration from the regional government. They are very strongly involved in the tuning of the EDI in the Brussels region. And the regional government in Brussels, they have a very strong focus on not using just technology for technology or for growth. They also want to achieve an environmental and societal transition to make it more sustainable. And what we see is that we get a lot of companies that want to contribute to that. Some do already contribute, but the problem that they see is that they don't have any means to determine what their impact is on a sustainability issue. They don't see what the synergies are between digital and sustainable transformation, and to make that impact clear. So from our own experience, from the discussions with the regional government, we decided on that specialization, namely that we use AI for economic and sustainable transition. You also asked that examples. There are a lot of examples we can give. Without going into detail, we have some examples of SMEs, for example. They are working on energy grid and energy storage optimization, which is a very hot topic in Belgium nowadays. And they do that by using artificial intelligence. And what we do is we define very small projects with them, ranging from 4 to 10 days, where we help them to see if the data that they have collected is of good quality, is the correct data. We put together with them a proof of concept such that they can really see that either their ID, their assumptions are validated or not. So they can really test their ID before investing in the complete development and outroll of their service.
Thank you. Nicola, would you like to?
Sure. Yeah. So, yeah, as I said, we had a number of running projects financed through EU funds mostly. So, let's say we had like we also did we had this approach to map everything that we have to see what are we all partners in our DIH, what do we have to offer, you know? And so we did a mapping, and we mapped around a little more than 70 services, various services that we offer. Majority of that are results, like let's say around 60% of those services are resulting from some previous projects. So we had a lot of experience, and we had, we had great examples, like we were involved in developing a proof of concept for our public search and rescue to develop drones which are able to use machine learning and AI to recognize objects, and especially in challenging environments like sea rescue and things like that. So we had let's say a number of competencies and results that were just waiting to find some framework which would enable them to multiply them, to transform them to something else. And we also did some, and also based through our direct contacts with companies through a Special Enterprise Europe network, we also had a feeling on the needs of companies. And we are currently trying to formalize this as we are working on one survey that we will run now in a few days. Next week we will start it, just to formally try to see what's the current state of things and needs of our companies. As we also had a challenge because in last 30 years, economy in Croatia changed drastically, from Yugoslavia to Croatia. We had privatization and everything, and we lost a number of huge employers. And we had a number of suppliers and service providers to those big companies, and they just dispersed and they tried to find different business models. So our economy is completely diversified. We don't have clusters. We never had clusters. because it's not easy to find joint, joint strengths. So we had a lot of challenges, and we are trying to find, some middle ground. And yeah, we see that this is something, especially for Croatia. In recent years, tourism became a major part of our economy. So tourism and all other activities related to the sea and coast are basically something that is currently the most prolific part of our economy, and we are trying to see how we can apply this stuff that is happening at universities, this knowledge that we have, and to make it of service and of use for our regional economy.
Selvis or Stelian, who wants to add? Selvis, please.
Yeah, I can just add some points on what colleagues already said. So I think the very important point, and what we are not allowed to forget, is why we are doing all this stuff. And as I understand, we want to strengthen the economy in Europe, right? And most probably SMEs are these ones who can keep us in a good level or not. So, and our approach was to see what SMEs are doing, what challenges they have, and how we, with this support or with this future initiative, because EDIC is still a future, hopefully early 2022, we will be able to start to support through EDICs in a good way SMEs, but how we can support existing system. And this is what we discovered, that it's very very difficult if you're talking with private sector to say, hey guys, you need to digitalize something, or you need to implement this or that technology. And usually these technologies are mixed. Can be that artificial intelligence is the only technology implemented, but usually there is a mix of AI, IoT, data collection, data using, and this is a mix. And therefore we see that in the focus point is SME, and then is a trust building between SMEs and solution providers, and then how to assist SMEs to make the step, to see the beneficial point of the change. And this is what we really hope and trust we will be able to do with the EDIC. We see the need, we make this audit, or we can name it as we want, but we make this research and see, okay, this point is reasonable to improve, and then we can find the right solution from different countries and to find the best solution. But in the first phase, we need somehow to not only to have the angel of change between company and the solution provider, but also some grant money for that, for the first step. And this is how we decided to go with the accelerator, to have in the name a part of the, what I was saying, we try to adapt or create a product for the SME on the right time, in the right shape, what they need to have to see the benefit to make the digitalization step. So.
Okay, thank you. Stelian, is there anything to add from your side?
Yes, so in our case, everything was in a way quite organic, because when the trigger for our initiative was, in fact, the motivation to develop a national market for IT industry. That was, in fact, the pragmatic reason. And because most of our companies, IT companies, actually work for external markets. And we have realized some years ago that will be important to support innovation and intellectual property in our IT companies, to start having the strong national market which is capable to absorb digital and IT actually technologies, and that was the starting point. And we had, of course, several incentives in this respect, and we have started to investigate different sectors, not only in our region, but to the country level, to see which would be the most reliable non-IT sectors to be assisted. And to the end of the day, we came up to the conclusion that production industry, in the broader sense, will have this potential of absorption of digital technologies on one side. On the other side, we follow another stream on smart city technologies, because was a time about 2013 when we started several projects on smart city, and from here we consolidated quite a strong working group in this area. And from 2015, we have started to deliver different kind of projects in this area for public administration, county level or municipality level, different kind of projects, strategies, or close assistance, or supporting them in development of such technologies, for example, for smart territories, so which is more than a city. And through this also, because in our network we have a lot of laboratories and also SMEs, I mean also many startups in the robotics field, we also coagulated this initiative on robotics. We have also a strong working group in data intelligence. We call data intelligence because, as was mentioned before, we do not believe that AI can happen without consolidating this layer of collecting data in different processes at organization level, and to build up digital architecture for companies, and upon this, on the top, of course, to come with the skills, with expertise on artificial intelligence. In this respect, also our hub has a full member, an association of experts in artificial intelligence, where we have started several projects, not only for industry, but also for the medical sector and for the public administration. It got interesting results. So all this together made naturally to generate, to the end of the day, this focus actually in the moment when we have realized that European Union will focus on digital innovation hubs. But as I said, when we have started, we had no idea that Europe will put focus on these initiatives. Now, of course, we'll try to do the best to valorize also this opportunity.
Much. I would like now to move on to the other important aspect of any European digital innovation, that is collaboration. That is collaboration on a pan-European level, transnational, let's say, and the other one would be on the regional one. But let's start with the transnational one. As you've seen, within the program, collaboration should take place, either structural, if there is a previous experience, one-off, or the third type. I wanted to know what was your approach for this transnational collaboration. I'm thinking about business models, and I'm thinking about, okay, they can be advantageous, but sometimes might be tricky. There are different cultures and so on. How is your approach on this transnational collaboration? to make the best out of this transnational collaboration. Why? How are the people motivated to collaborate with you?
Yeah, there can be some hurdles, but if you are involved in a European project in the past as well, the benefits you have there, they outweigh the hurdles. And it's good to actively search for collaborations. We did that in the past, but now we do that actively also with other EDI candidates. We, of course, scan our existing network that we have with collaboration with European projects as well, also through virtual events. They were virtual the last years. And also, as Annemarie also mentioned, the EDI catalog with all the specializations. It's a helpful tool to detect new ones that we didn't know before existed. And then is to have a chat, contact them, book a virtual meeting. You can share your vision, your approaches. And even if it doesn't come to collaboration, it's not lost. It's a new type of modality, those EDIs. It's not always clear how we should define or do something or define services, but the vision of other EDI candidates helps to get a clearer view on what we should do ourselves. And then we agree on some lightweight collaboration. It can be an event or a talk or getting in touch every year for 2 or 3 times. And then we will see the rest can follow and other jointly structural defined services that will come later on.
Else want to add on this?
Yeah, sure. So from my point of view, yeah, collaboration is immensely important. So we need to open ourselves. And this is the best experience that we have through Enterprise Europe Network. So it's giving you a new perspectives and it's giving you new opportunities, and you are able to service your clients better in any sense, in any way, you know. And through EN, we also did internal mapping of the potential of EDI candidates, and we reached some connections already. We did sign some letters of memorandums of understanding with some of the partners, and we approached this in 2 different ways. So we were trying to see which of the partners have complementary services, and the other way is to see the partners that are active in the same sectors, you know. So we were trying to see which partners are also connected to the sea and to the industries relating to the blue economy. And currently we are in negotiations with 10 partners, trying to see how to connect this, you know, network of sea related or sea EDIs connected to the sea. So we have partners from Greece, Italy, Portugal, Norway, France, etc. So, and on the other side, we also try to see where we are lacking, where we are weak in our service offerings. So, for example, you know, we had a fantastic collaboration with one candidate, EDI, which is intending to apply experiences from financial modeling to management of tourism, you know, inflow and outflows of tourism and management of tourism in general. So this kind of things are also interesting to see. How can you complement your services better with this kind of connections? And also not sure, is it okay to add something, as we are also connected regionally, and we are already in talks with all other EDI candidates in Croatia. So we are trying to establish a network, especially it's a good situation in our country because all of the candidates are different, and there's no single one that is covering the same target groups. So we are in a good position, you know, to have a good cooperation, and yeah.
Salvis, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, if I may. I really trust from when the experience is already 15 years in the business support field, I think my experience, and what I see is that the collaboration, and is it international or local, doesn't matter. The collaboration need to be need-based, and this is what Nicola say. If we see a great program, we need to start to cooperate and find right partners. So it need to be need-based, or it's a natural, somehow natural established collaboration. And here I wanted to mention one very good example. We, and also Cluj IT is a member of a network called 3B ICT network. That means Baltics, Balkans, and Black Sea ICT network. And we are almost 15 different clusters from these countries, from these regions. And the network is created some 6 years ago, I think, and it's somehow, and we still are together. We started with experience sharing. We started with companies bringing together from country to country and try to establish cooperation. And today, I think 4 of us are eddies or planet eddies. That means we can strengthen our cooperation, but this cooperation network is already somehow naturally fit, or how to say, and it's important that I know these guys, they know me, and always we can talk when the need is there. Because today we don't have any topic to speak about, but tomorrow we have, and this is something what shows that naturally growth network is much better than for now. For example, we need to have a network. We will sign some memorandums of understanding, but we don't know what we will do with each other. So yeah, but just an example how it works in our case. Thank you.
Well, anything from your side, Stelian, which you'd like to add?
Okay, just continue. This 3B ICT network was quite interesting because when we have established this, was even for the western part of Europe something very curious. I mean, they did not expect to generate such a kind of network in the eastern part, maybe, and we had the chance through this network to reach a lot of initiatives at the European level, even because we, as it was mentioned before, we have succeeded to prepare together interesting transnational projects. One of them where we have been involved recently was related with infusion of IT in the agriculture sector, in the green and automotive industry. And we have experienced different kind of, as you mentioned, cultural perspectives, but also we have seen there are so many common things. Also, we collected a lot of data from the ground to see perspective differences, similitudes, complementarities. From our side, of course, this is a must. We have started to operate international even from the very, very beginning because of a pragmatic orientation to reach different markets, to understand opportunities. And with partnerships, we can do this in much better way. It's in our culture now. We are also open different doors in Africa and South America, Far East, etc. Just because of let's say the pragmatic interest to operate in this digital economy. And of course, as a consequence of such actions, we have succeeded in the last years to be part of different consortia for cybersecurity. For example, now we are recognized as a hub in cybersecurity, for example, by the quite a new initiative of European Commission, the Network on Cybersecurity. So, of course, this is part of the aggregation of different competencies, but moving towards we see the digital economy, because we do not believe in a sectorial approach, but in a holistic one. And of course, through the let's say approaches mainly developed by Cluj IT, as let's say the co-promoter of Digital Innovation Hub for Society, we have been involved in several other consortia in Europe at cluster level, IT cluster level, and cross industry level. And now we are in the position, of course, to fructify, let's say, this network, friendship, etc. And by fortune, a lot of former collaborator or current collaborators are now part in this position to be candidates for European DIH in this short list. So I expect and I really wish that all of our partners, including us, also to be in the future part of this network, European network, on this. Thank you.
Thank you. One last subtopic to the collaboration issue. So the EDIC should have a big impact regionally, but in this can be done having several organizations working for this. But there are cases in which, you have to convince competitors in the same market to join your hub to support the digital transformation of the region. What was your approach on this to make people work together, although they might be competitors in the same market? How you convince them to join your approach?
We are a collective center. We exist for 70 years now. We have 2,500 members in Belgium. Most of them are SMEs, and they're often competitors of each other. So it's at the heart of the operation that we can gain their trust. And that is not done by an NDA. If you would think that an NDA is there for when it doesn't go well, then it's good for the lawyers to have something. So you have to reassure the SME that you don't share any confidential data with another. And you have to reassure and tell how you maintain that trust. And if you work as an expert, as an individual, or as a team, you work for a competitor, you tell them. You tell that you have projects with a competitor, they will know eventually that you do that. If you tell that company, they can react in two ways. Some say, well, I don't want you to handle the project since you're also with my competitor. You might tell something unintentionally. And in that case, we assign another expert to that company, and most of the time this is enough to gain the trust. And other companies don't have a problem with that.
In this regard, from any of you?
Okay, I will say a few words here. We consolidated the trust, working hard to set up a special framework. We have a code of ethics. Actually, if I remember, we worked about 8 months just to put the final form of this code of ethics. The code of intellectual property, which I would say that is extremely important, especially in different joint initiatives and innovations. And we have also this code for confidentiality, non-disclosure agreement. But above this, we have succeeded to set up at the operational level a model of collaboration. Just give you some example, a recent example. Just weeks ago, we completed a project for county council. I'll not necessarily mention that council, but we had a project for setting up the architecture and all specifications and design for cloud monitoring of an integrated system of waste management. And we had about 10 companies involved in this project, every company with a very narrow specialization. We have another project where I think 22 companies integrated different experts for a complex project. For Smart Territory, a project which I mentioned before, are working a consortium of 6 companies. So they are competitors in some market, but in some other areas, they complement each other. And this is, I would say, the key. And we act as a partner in this, let's say, ad hoc or I would say polycentric innovation initiatives as not only a moderator, but with specialized instruments at the operational level to quantify the value added brought by every partner. So we do not have problems in this respect to put companies of which would say from outside say that are competitors to work together for specific projects. And of course, even this type of model we have promoted in 2014 at the European Parliament in Strasbourg, and it was published, our model in a book there, because we have realized which are, let's say, the keys to raise up the interest of competing companies to work together in innovation projects. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else to add to what the previous have said?
Yeah, very short. I think there are 2 keywords: trust, what Ludwig mentioned, and what Stelian mentioned is competition or cooperation, how I understood it. So that we, for example, are running a cluster organization. This is the nature of cluster, to cooperate. And I'm 100% sure that the future is in the cooperation. Of course, every company will have commercial secrets, and this is fine. But who will not cooperate, they will. I don't want to say the word, but they will die. So this is what I really trust, and yeah. Thank you. But in short.
Okay. I thank you very much for your inputs. Now I would like to move on to the last part, and I would like to ask Anne-Marie Sassinen especially about the digital transformation approach in Europe, and where do we stand compared with other initiatives, and maybe just leave 2 or 3 minutes to answer the questions which you haven't yet answered in the chat. So I give the floor to you, and maybe bring to the table the broader picture.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. So I've also listened to your discussion, and first of all, if I first say where Europe is compared with its digital transformation and other regions of the world, then I think it's comparable with other regions of the world. So we are not doing worse than the US, for instance, even though, of course, in the US there is Silicon Valley, there are the big companies which we don't have in Europe. But other parts of the US doesn't have Silicon Valley either, and they also struggle. The normal, let's say the traditional companies, they also struggle with their digital transformation, and they also find it difficult. So in that respect, it's quite similar. And what I think is really then the advantage of Europe, or the approach that we will be taken now. It's also related to the discussions that you had. So your specialization, it's based on your strengths, and there will be very different. So I heard from Ludwig, it will be AI for sustainable manufacturing, if I summarize it that way. For Nicola, it will be everything around the sea, the blue economy. Salvis, he focuses on the needs of SMEs, and then Stelian, he works from the fact that you are the IT cluster, and you've been working together with a group of companies to, let's say, you start from the supply side and you've already been doing that also for several years. So I think all of that is very good. That is our strength. There is variety. You are embedded in your local economy, and I think that can lead to lots of innovation, which is needed everywhere in Europe. And if I take the example of the sea, because it's there are other regions in Europe where the sea is very important, and you also have a collaboration with other candidate European digital innovation hubs focused around the sea. I really think you can learn a lot from each other. You can develop new innovations, which will be very useful, and that later on some of these can be really exported also to other parts in the world where they also need these solutions around the sea. So I think that is the nice. We start from the local specializations. People also don't need to move to, for instance, to one place, because that's also something which is very important. It's a place-based policy. We will have 200 European Digital Innovation Hub and not one where everybody is assembled together, and everybody who would work there would need to move to the capital. But it will be everywhere in Europe. We will keep a culture of innovation everywhere in Europe, and that in itself, it can attract people to live in your region, to do good jobs with where you can be innovative, creative. All that is very important, because we do see a movement where companies all move to a capital, and then it will be too crowded in the capital. It will be too expensive to pay for housing. So this place-based approach, I think, is also something very important. And then at the same time, we have the advantages of the collaboration, where indeed you can learn from each other to get a better offer. So we've heard all of you, stating previous collaborations, that some of them where you have really been able to establish the trust, that they really became useful for you. And I also agree that all those collaborations, they should be need-based. It's not about developing memorandum of understanding. That's not at all necessary for your proposals. What is necessary is that you would have an outlook on collaboration and see the advantages of that, and that you don't want to be only alone, that we would have 200, we would not have a network, but we would just have 200 hubs working only alone for their region. That way we will not have the advantages of the investment. We will not get the acceleration that we really need. But I think with the distributed approach, everybody has their local focus, but at the same time we can accelerate all the digital transformation by working together whenever that makes sense, whenever that's needed, and also at the time when the trust is established between the different partners. So that is what I wanted to say about the comparison with the rest of the world. So it's I think sometimes other parts of the world, they like the approach. Others think, well, it's better to invest in one very good digital innovation hub and not spread it geographically. But that are all political choices, of course.
Thank you very much. There are a few questions in the chat. I think one is concerning what you have said. So there's a question from Salvis. Is there still a split of the 200 edicts by country? There were fixed number of edicts per country. So is
that's still the case. We have a fixed number per country. Or
okay.
actually not a fixed number, but we have a fixed budget per country, and then it are the countries who can decide whether they would like to have more or less digital innovation hubs using that budget. But the budget is the limit per country.
Okay, thank you. There is another question for Alexandra, but I think you have answered that in the chat regarding the several types of partners. Then there is another question from Paul Svasta. Could you submit a project proposal DIG that have not been pre-selected by the region?
No, unfortunately not. It will be a restricted call, and every proposal needs to prove that they have been pre-selected by their member state as a candidate European Digital Innovation Hub. And if you would just submit a proposal, then we will not evaluate it and we will declare it ineligible.
Yes, you have presented this at the beginning of your presentation. Yes.
Yeah.
There would be another question, maybe from my side. How is the evaluation process? And I'm thinking about how the national authorities are involved in this selection process. I think there was some colleague of mine wanted to know. So, is there something to say on this? So we know that the process is kind of fuzzy a little bit. What the nations have to say when selecting this?
They are, of course, involved, first of all, because the member states do the pre-selection and we only select from the pre-selected candidates. We have also asked all the member states to propose experts, which we will be using for the evaluation, because every proposal will be read by 3 experts. And one of these experts could be the one suggested by the member state. Of course, you should have no conflict of interest. We will check that. But that would then be somebody who knows the local situation. And then there could be 2 other experts from other parts of Europe. They all make an individual assessment of the proposal. And then they would meet in a consensus meeting, that's how we call it, where they would come to a consensus score. So this score, that will be very important for the proposal. And then we would rank all the proposals of one country, because we have this limit per country, in a ranked list, and we would put the highest score on top. So that proposal will certainly be funded. So we will have this ranked list per country. First based on the score, but we will then look whether adaptations are needed, because we have written in the work program at least 1 hub per country should be devoted to artificial intelligence. So we will look, with this funding range, this budget, whether in the list we have one on artificial intelligence. If that's okay, it stays the same. If it's not, but it's just below the funding range, but still above the quality threshold, we would raise it up, because we need 1 per AI for every country. And we would also look if the geographical and technological and sectorial distribution is good. So if we would have 2 proposals, which would be exactly the same place, same technology, same sector, then we would, the one with the lower score, we would replace by one which is lower on the list, but which has a variety, which brings a variety to the network. So we will do these adaptations to the lists of the country, and after that we will look at the whole European selection, so the 200. And there we would also look for some optimizations. For instance, we need 10% of all the hubs that are focusing on public sector. So we would look, is that the case? If not, we would raise some on public sector. So, and after all that then will be the proposals that we will select. And at that stage, we will ask again the member states to confirm this selection. So there they will have then again a role.
Okay, they also have to confirm this. I see some other questions. Whether all approved edits will start work at the same time, same year, in terms of available funding?
Yeah, that's the objective. We want to select all the ones from the beginning. However, it could be that some don't reach the quality threshold because it might be first time they write a European proposal. So sometimes it can also be different than what you expect. So for the ones who don't reach the threshold, there will be a second opportunity. You can call it the exam in the summer, where you would have a second opportunity to pass the threshold. But so, maybe some will be a bit later, but the idea is really as soon as possible, as many as possible of the 200 hubs.
Thank you very much. We are on time. Thank you very much for your presentations, for your interesting ideas regarding edX. I hope the discussion was interesting for the members of the audience, and they got some information which they can use in their application to attract other partners and so on. Thank you very much. And I hope to collaborate with you on different other topics. So, thank you.
Bye.
Thank you too.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
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 Thank you. Bye.
Innovation Days is part of the Future Skills lifelong learning program. The project is co-financed from the European Social Fund through the Human Capital Operational Program 2014-2020.